everyone, and welcome back to Oh That Girl Reads. I am your host, Bria, and I am also that girl. I kind of fudged up that intro. But we read what we love, DNF the rest. You know the spiel. I am just catching you guys after the amazing interview with Therese M. Clark. If you guys didn't catch that one, go back and listen to it. It is the perfect episode for a long commute. It is an hour and 20 minutes. I will not lie to you. We were laughing and kikiing and giggling all throughout. I feel kind of bad because I feel like I didn't gear the conversation more towards her book, but I feel like her thought processes and things like that, her experience as an indie author was so valuable that I was so interested in hearing about it. But I mean, I feel like it also kind of gives background on her book Chaser, which is her newest release in her Courageous Love series. So I hope you check out that book as well. But yeah, today I'm just coming at you guys on, I think it's a Wednesday. What is today's day that I'm recording this? I don't know if it matters. But anyway, I am coming to you guys today just to talk, to chat with one another. I'm gonna be so real with you. I have made a very ambitious August TBR, and I will be honest with you again. I did not read all but one book this month. And that was Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. Now, this is not going to be an August reading wrap up video because I already did make a review on Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. So if you want to hear what I think about that book, spoiler alert, I think it's amazing. Go ahead to that episode. But honestly, I have to talk to you guys about TBRs right now. I don't know if I'm a TBR girly, a monthly TBR girly. I think I have like a general TBR right now, and I think that works for me and my brain, but just with the way my brain chemistry is set up right now, I don't think I am meant to have a monthly TBR. I'm going through a weird brain time right now. Depression and anxiety is like, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And so my mood for reading is just not it. I did start a book though. I'm going through this kind of slowly, that is Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. I'm really excited for this just because of like the overall concept. I'm about like 60 pages in, and I'm vibing with it so far. I'm definitely vibing with it so far. This is Elizabeth Acevedo's debut adult novel. She has a few YA novels, With the Fire on High, Clap When You Land, and Poet X, I believe it's called, right? Let's see. Yeah, The Poet X. And a lot of people loved her YA stuff. I've never really read her YA literature, so I was really excited when I saw that she was actually doing something in adult, because I felt more drawn to pick that up. So yeah, so that's what I'm currently reading right now. This is kind of about just a family who is attending one of the matriarchs in the family's living wake, and just kind of unraveling each of these women in this family's history. So I really like it. I think the multiple points of view people have said is kind of confusing. So far, I'm not having like a hard time with it. But again, I mean, I read and enjoyed Black Cake, and that was like a mind fuck. So I've learned to like adapt maybe. But also I'm not too deep into the story, so I'll keep you updated on like what I think about that whole thing. But even just like trying to pick up like Family Lore, it was definitely a struggle. Like it was born out of pure desperation. Like I have so many beautiful books that are on my shelf right now that I'm so excited to read, and I remember how excited I was to read. Like right next to me I have like, oh, I'm bopping things. I have Vampire of El Norte by Isabel Cañas, and then I also have another book by her, The Hacienda. I started The Hacienda, but I'm such a mood reader that I just kind of got out of the mood when I was reading it. So like I have these 2 books that I want to read. So there's just like so many things on my TBR right now that I just want to engage with, that like mentally I just think I'm in like a really big reading slump. I don't even know if it has to do with my mental health, because usually when I'm depressed, like I love to read when I'm depressed. But this time it's like I think I'm just in a reading slump. I'm trying to think about which book did it to me. Which book can I blame for this reading slump? What was the last thing that I read? It wasn't Highly Suspicious, because Suspicious actually got me out of a reading slump enough that I was encouraged to pick up family lore. I'm trying to think. What were the other books that I read? Oh, were they all arcs? Did the arcs do that to me? Damn it, you arcs. Oh, I think it was Between Us by Vari McFarlane. Did she do that to me? Damn you, McFarlane. I think that just put me in a real slump. But yeah, I don't know. So I just figured, since I don't really have anything to talk to you guys about in terms of like bookish things, like actual books that I've read, I figured that I would just talk to you. Maybe you're just like hanging out with me. Maybe there's some of you out there who aren't using me for book recommendations. Actually, you know what? It's okay if you use me for book recommendations, because that's kind of what, my job is. Anyway, to move on, I had a recent experience, not too recent, I guess it's been a little bit, but I was reading Love by Toni Morrison, and I made a TikTok about it, just talking about, my experience. Maybe I'll show it to you here. Hi. If you know me, or if you've ever watched the podcast, you will know that our main slogan and our main thing is to read what you love and DNF the rest. Well, I have only had 2 DNFs so far this year. The first one being Priory of the Orange Tree. I'm so sorry, Dina, for failing you in our buddy read. And the second one being a book that I got from the library, and it is Love by Toni Morrison. I adore Toni Morrison. I've read so many of her books, especially when I was studying in undergrad. And the reason why I DNF'd this book is not because I'm not interested in it, not because I think the writing is bad or I have a bad opinion of her as a writer. No, she is an icon to me. I was just triggered as fuck. Like, I have, like, wow. In a way, I've tried to make this video like a few times, and each time I feel a little bit more jittery each time. I try to talk about what I experienced while reading this. When reading like authors, especially the Black female authors who were writing during this time period, who were kind of in the cohort of Toni Morrison and like Gloria Naylor and like everyone like that, I was well aware that, there's going to be some rough discussion around like sexual assault and violence against the female Black body. And in reading this, I didn't expect it, and I didn't expect it because, one, I didn't check the trigger warnings, but two, because Toni Morrison was a familiar author to me, I just assumed that I would be okay, if that makes sense. Like, I'm like, oh, like, I know, like, it's gonna be a little rough, but I just assumed that I would be okay. But one thing that I have to kind of reconcile with right now is the fact that, like, the person I was in undergrad who could handle reading this is not the person that I am today. And it feels weird saying that. It feels weird saying like, oh, I can't handle this. And I have to be gentle with myself, and I have to be like, it's okay that, you can't read this.
and it's best that you don't read this versus you read this and you feel emotionally hurt or you hurt your mental health. So that's a difficult conversation that I'm having with myself currently, but it is a weird experience. But as I do when I do get triggered and I go into a book blind, which I will say I sometimes do, despite usually being pro trigger warning and usually doing my research, sometimes I still go into books blind, especially if I'm familiar with the authors. But if I do get triggered by something unexpectedly, I take a pause, reset, and then I go and search up the book for trigger warnings. And surprisingly, I didn't see anything for Love by Toni Morrison. In fact, I actually don't really see much about the book at all. I did come across one article, and this article is by Emily Prado. I don't see a pub date on this. So she published this in September 2020. But this is by Emily Prado, Looking at Love, Toni Morrison's Construction of Desire and Obstacle. I think it's honestly, it's a really interesting article. And if you've read Love, this might be interesting for you to look at as well. But if you kind of want an idea, if you're interested in this book at all, or you come across this book, this article kind of gives you an idea of some of the triggers that you might face. It doesn't mention the explicit scene that triggered the fuck out of me. I'm gonna go back to the page. I'm gonna try not to read anything, but okay. So this happens chapter 2, pages 46 to 47. If you're wondering, chapter 2, pages 46, 47 is what I'm talking about. It's not mentioned in this article by Emily Prado. This is not mentioned in there, but this kind of gives you a little bit more of an idea of what's going on in this book. Also, if you guys have read this book, I think the community would really benefit from any potential trigger warnings that you have, if you're willing to share. That's not to say that you're completely responsible for anything like that. It'd just be great for the community. And I do want to say thank you to any authors, readers, publishers, editors, anyone who is advocating and practicing giving trigger warnings to readers. That's really important and is very much appreciated. It's definitely appreciated by me. But yeah, I just wanted to hop on here and talk about that brutal experience. But I am gonna go and I'm gonna do some yoga with Adrian, get my mind right. I'm also gonna get a little cup of tea and I'm gonna read something fluffy. I have some other books, but I have to see what my headspace looks like for the next few days. This is probably gonna change my August TBR, to be honest. So that'll be fun.
But yeah, I just had a really hard time with that book, and it's been a while since I've been triggered by something. I think the interesting thing that came up for me in that moment was this feeling of shame for not being able to read something. And I'm curious if you guys also feel shame around not being able to finish a book or be able to engage with a book. Out the gate, this is just an example. I always think of the dark romance girlies because the dark romance girlies I know are super respectful with their trigger warnings and they're very upfront with them. So I really respect them as a community. So for example, when I see a book on example, Ray's page, they post all the time about, dark romance books and they give all these sorts of recommendations, and sometimes they're on the fluffier side and sometimes they're on the dark romance side. And because they know their audience and because they know that their reading is so diverse in terms of the spectrum of dark romance, they're very clear when they're sharing something that's on the darker side. And so when I think about their content and I think about when I'm like, oh, I'm really excited to read that book, and then I see the triggers and I'm like, oh no, that's not for me. That's not for me at all. I usually don't feel shame attached to that. I usually don't feel bad about that at all, actually. I just say, oh, that's not for me, and I move on. But for some reason, maybe it's because like Toni Morrison is like one of my literary icons. Like, I've engaged with her work so deeply in undergrad, and I was able to handle it. I was able to discuss it, break it down. I felt so bad. I felt terrible that I couldn't work past like this really intense scene. And like sometimes I'm gonna be so real with you guys. Like, the reason why I'm so intense about trigger warnings is because sorry, I'm like losing my voice for some reason. But the reason why I'm so intense about trigger warnings is because I don't know, and I don't think people really understand this, is because the trigger lasts outside of the moment that you're reading, watching, or experiencing something. The trigger has lasting effects that could be hours, days, months, a year, years after that. And I was so triggered by this moment in the book that if I think about the book itself too hard, I'll get flashes of what I read, and I'm a very visual reader, so I see it, and it's really difficult. So yeah, that's just to say, like, that's why I'm so intense about the trigger warnings that I share. And I try my best to share trigger warnings when I have them. Like, some things I go blind for, which that reminds me, I will put the trigger warnings for family lore here, but also you could look at booktriggers.com or Storygraph. I love those two websites for trigger warnings. But yeah, I try to do my best with trigger warnings, and I try to make sure I'm reminding people at the very least. Like, if I don't share the trigger warnings or like list them out for people, which I totally don't mind doing, if I don't do that, I at the very least remind people to check trigger warnings, just because like I'm that person who I'm like, oh, I love that concept, and I'll go in blind. And I do that from time to time. I'm a real advocate for trigger warnings, but I don't necessarily look them up all the time, and that's no one's fault but my own. But yeah, so I don't know. It was a really strange experience feeling that shame around being triggered by something. I felt so bad. I honestly felt so bad. And part of the reason why I cried after returning the book to the library. And part of that was because I just felt so disconnected from myself. And honestly, it might not have even been that happened. Like, I think lately I've been feeling disconnected from myself. I feel like a new person, and not in a bad way. It's like a developing person, and I feel like I'm growing out of my own skin sometimes. And I think that was like one of those moments where I was like, I am literally changing as a human being. And part of me questions that experience, because it's like, okay, am I not, because before I said, oh, back then I was able to handle this sort of triggering content. I said that, right? But I'm kind of wondering now, it's like, is it true that back then I was able to handle that triggering content? Or back then, was I just willing to put myself in a dangerous situation in order to, you know, obviously get good marks in school, or like be able to discuss things with other people? Was it that I was actually able to handle this stuff, or was I just more willing to put myself at risk back then? And I don't know, I'm so reflective about that experience right now. Um but yeah, no, trigger warnings are a huge deal. They're an extremely huge deal. They're a huge deal to me, and they can affect you so much. Like, I remember seeing a video of a person, a reader, who is super used to reading really dark shit. And one of the, I can't remember the author's names, but it doesn't really matter, I guess, to the context. But an author was like, in their author's note, they're like, trigger warning for all the things, because this is really fucking dark, and if you read my work, then you know how dark it is, and like, you literally shouldn't read this if you're gonna get like sad or whatever. It was like a sassy ass like author's note trigger warning page, and I just thought it was like an abuse of a trigger warning page. It just seems so condescending, and I feel like it was like meant to come off like quirky maybe, but they just kind of came off like an asshole. And I just remember, like, I see when I fail to give trigger warnings, or if I fail to say, hey, you need to check the triggers on a book, I literally see that reader's face. I see like the tears in her eyes as she's like giving other people real warnings, real trigger warnings about this book. I just see it in my head. I think I'm just so sensitive, but like, I just see it in my head every time I fail, and I'm like, oh my God, I would absolutely hate to be the person responsible for someone, like, oh my God, I would just hate it. I would hate to be responsible for that. But yeah, that's a brief discussion about trigger warnings. But okay, I feel like I'm just bouncing from topic to topic today, and I'm sorry if this is like a discombobulated episode and you low-key hate me for this, but I don't know, I'm in like a loose mood. I'm just like, who needs structure today? But okay, so obviously if you follow me on if you guys follow me on TikTok, you will know that I've also recently, where did this book go actually? I have to find that fucking book because I need to give it back to the library. But I recently started reading and following Tati Richardson. I love Tati's TikTok, but she also has a podcast, which is so cool. It's all about romance. Let me see if I can pull up the name. I watch so many podcasts that I actually, every time someone's like, oh, like, what podcast are you listening to? I'm like, all of them. Can we not? Okay, so I really like her podcast, Romance in Color. It's actually really, really good. I also really like Reading Black Girls podcast. Love it. What are some other? I love Books Unbound. Those are some good podcasts to watch. If you're a queer little baby exploring things like I am, I also recently came across the Queer Collective podcast. They have like all sorts of cool topics. I'm interested in listening to this next episode. Is therapy speak ruining our relationships? I haven't been in a relationship in a really long ass time, so I actually don't know how to interact with people anymore, so hopefully they can help me. I also started listening to the Bookish Banter podcast. If you like podcasts that are like more focused on like the actual books people are reading, like the the podcasts that I mentioned are fabulous. Like they're really great, especially the Bookish Banter podcast and the Black Girls Reading podcast. They go deep dive into books. I think my thing about it is that sometimes if I haven't read the book yet, I'm like, oh, there's so many episodes that I'm like missing out on because I haven't read these books. So there's not really like a spoiler free type of vibe happening. It's very much like book discussion type thing. So if that's your vibe, that is your vibe. They also have like author interviews and just like little girl chats too. So definitely check them out either way. But yeah, so anyway, I said I mostly wanted to talk about Tati Richardson's The Build Up and not talk about the podcast that I'm listening to. But it's funny because I started reading The Build Up and I'm enjoying it. I had to stop reading it though because the copy of it that I got from the library is this like tiny ass like mass market paperback. And I'm so like, because this is a library book and no one has creased this book yet. And I'm wondering, okay, as a librarian, I'm wondering how many rotations, like how many checkouts this book has had. On the back end, you can actually see how many times a book has been checked out. And so I'm curious how many times this book has been checked out because it smells like other people's houses. It doesn't smell like library, okay? Like, as someone who's like been an avid library user and worked in a library, you know when a book is new when it smells like the library versus when it smells like somebody's house, okay? And so this book, the book that I got out, my copy of the build up, it smells like people's houses. And by that it means it smells different on each page, so depending on the person that it had, like it affected a page, okay? So I know that it's not like a new release. I know it's not a new release, and I know it has been in people's hands, okay? That means that the people before me were so gentle with this fucking book that they didn't crease the side of the book, and I don't want to be the one to return the book creased. One, because you never know what library worker is going to decide that that's going to be damaged. Okay, technically it's not supposed to be considered damaged, but I look, some of those pages, some of the library pages are real sticklers about creases, okay? Even though it's not in the handbook that that's considered damaged because it's not damaged. But anyway, I don't want to get charged for damage. I don't want that for myself. So the reading experience became stressful because it gave me this tiny ass book. So I think that I can't read the rest of the build up until I get it on Kindle. If it's available on Kindle, I'm gonna look right now, actually. Speaking of, look how fucking cute my stickers are. If you're audio listening, you probably don't see it, but yeah, no, I'm just so upset because I was really into it, but I was just stressed so much throughout this reading experience of not fucking up this book. Okay. Ooh, okay. Not only. Oh, you know what? Okay, I'm having a debate now, okay? Because the build up is the mass market paperback is only $9, which I'm okay with mass market paperbacks in general. I'm happy with them in general. In fact, I think they're really fucking cute. And I would love to collect all my favorite books in mass paperback versions. However, when it comes from a library, I can't return it damaged. So I actually might just buy my own mass market paperback because it's only $4 more than the Kindle version. Or they have it on audiobook. And so now that is a debate. Do I want this book as an audiobook? I might get it as an audiobook, honestly, because I have Audible credits. And then it's technically that I'm not breaking my book buying ban. So maybe I'll do that. I'll go ahead and do that. But I really like the build up. It's really, they're kind of cute. I am not going to lie to you. It's not insta-lovey, but there's not much like tension. You know what I'm saying? Not in like a bad way. I mean, there's tension in the sense of like they're feeling each other. Get closer. You know what I'm saying? But it's not tension in like the will they won't they type of way. I'm very much a will they won't they type of girly. With these two, they're feeling each other so much that it is a when are they? Which is kind of equally as good, actually. So it's like, you know it's going to happen. Everyone else knows it's kind of going to happen. So when is it going to happen? And I like that. I also feel like they kind of give me the vibe of that, like, sexy older couple that are always going to be in love. I mean, I haven't gotten to, like, any, like, spice scenes yet. Like, when I tell you that I got stressed out with reading this book, the physical experience of reading it, I did, but like they give me the vibe of like they're gonna be that older couple that's together forever. Like, do you remember 17? Oh, no, it's not 17 again, right? Or maybe it is 17 again with Tia and Tamara Mari and the little Mari, what's his name, Miles? No. I was like, Mark. Taj. Taj Mari. Okay. The couple who was like Grandma Catherine and Grandpa Eugene, that's who I thought of. Like, if they like grew old together, that's what they would be like. That's what they would be like. It's so, oh my god, they're so cute. They're so cute, and they were actually really funny too. So I adored reading. Oh my god, that is so funny. I adored reading about them. So I can't wait to get back into that one. I think that's gonna like pick up my like reading. In fact, I have a few errands to run for work, so maybe I'll start reading that audiobook on like my out and about time, because like I feel like that's gonna be a good one. I feel like it has so much potential, and honestly, the girlies who love Tati Richardson are so fun. So yeah. I also hear that Tati's working on another one, and I think there's like maybe like a why choose element to it, if I'm thinking about the right video, or if I understood the video next. So I'm kind of excited for that. Like, I think already she's like one of my romance authors, like on the list of my romance authors. I've kind of like, I'm like in and out with romance right now. I think it really depends on who's writing the romance that I'm like, you know, like Katie Robert, love you girl, but ooh. Oh, I don't know, girl. I don't know. You might have to win me back a little bit. Lord have mercy. I don't know what happened. Katie girl, we were so close together. We were one at one point in time. And I just feel like Cruel Seduction, that one sex scene. Like, just Katie girl, actually no, let's be real. Katie, you know I am going to buy whatever you put on a freaking shelf. You know it. So let's keep this relationship mutual in that please give me intimacy when I need intimacy. Give me the nasty, dirty sex scenes. Give me the best ones you can make. I know you can make those. But you also have this beautiful gem, this untapped, beautiful gem of intimacy and fluff that you're not using to its full potential. Also, give me more pages. Stop giving me these wimpy books, Katie. Give me bigger books. Anyway, let's see. Ooh, Deanna Gray. Deanna Gray is also one of my top girlies. I can't wait for her next releases. Let's see. Of course, Therese, I actually have the first book and the second book, or the novella, in lock. So once I'm freed from my book buying ban, those are on deck. Those are going to be on Kindle, okay? Ooh, also, everyone's reading Natasha Bishop's Only for the Week, and I'm kind of interested. I also want to read JL Seeger's Revive Me, but everybody be crying when they talk about that, and I don't know. I think that's the one that everyone's like crying about. Oh, but it's under the Grumpy Sunshine trope. I'm looking at like what Kindle is offering me right now. So they have like a little Grumpy Sunshine tab. So we have like Revive Me. The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human. I don't know if those books were really my vibe. I tried it and I just, I like how you guys are just like choosing my next romance reads with me. Okay, so let's see all of the potential options we have. So we have some things by Anise Starr. I don't know, it's like we got some fake dating, steamy workplace. I'm not like a workplace girly. I'm like, keep your pants on at work, please. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so Revive Me, what is that? That's like book 3. Yes, part 3. No, this is book 2. Book 2, part 3. I don't understand. Either way, I want to read those books, but people be crying, so I'm scared. Let's see. Was that Fake It Till You Bake It? Oh, Fake It Till We Break It. Okay, interesting. Ooh, plus size. I see some hippie ladies over here. Hello. What was that called? That was called Cheeky Romance by Nia Authors. It says Billionaire Dads. Are these all just dads that we're dating? I mean, that's fine. Hold on. Let me read this to you. All right. Cheeky Romance by Nia Arthurs. Ooh, it has pretty good ratings. Clocks in at 421 pages. All right. The only thing worse than marrying your pissy... Oh, sorry. The only thing worse than marrying your prissy childhood friend in a Vegas wedding is waking up the next morning and hearing she forgot about it. I got my best friend pregnant. Cool. No sense sugarcoating the truth because the Vegas wedding and drunken honeymoon are just a tiny part of the story. The real crap storm is what happens after Vanya finds out there's a bun in her oven. Since the start of her career as a plus-size model, Vanya has been known for one thing, how much she doesn't want kids. To make matters worse, the kid she's having is with me, the man who's been secretly crushing on and openly terrorizing her since middle school. Okay. Given how much I've pined for her, you'd think I'd be ready for a kid. Wrong. As careless heir to a family fortune, responsibility and I don't get along. But I'm determined to do the right thing, so I move in to take care of Vanya and work as her assistant. What I don't expect is to fall hard for her while she's bossing me around. With every shared breakfast, every silly argument, and every angry kiss, I know a family with Vanya is what I want. But she's tougher than a drill sergeant and hates what she can't control. Can I convince the mother of my kid that her perfect future should include me? Okay. I need reports on this book, actually. I need reports. Can I see these reviews, maybe? Can you not see reviews on the Kindle? I actually still kind of new to this Kindle experience. But what I'm worried about, and this is just like an outsider's perspective, because honestly, I would read the shit out of this. I don't mind unplanned pregnancy trope or like, a oopsie baby. Like, I don't mind that. What happens is the conversation that is involved with the oopsie baby. So I don't know. Maybe this will be on the next little romance TBR for Or That Girl Reads. Thank you guys for joining me for today's episode. I know it was a little all over the place. I know I'm ending this really abruptly, but honestly, my camera's about to die and I feel like a hot mess. But thank you so much again for listening, for being here with me today. Remember to read what you love and DNF the rest. And I will talk to you guys next time. Bye. So long, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. If you would like to see more, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, Oh That Girl Reads. If you want more bookish content, feel free to check out my booktube channel, Bria L, on YouTube. Remember, read what you love and DNF the rest. Bye.